Right, good morning and welcome to another hardcore segment where we discuss issues in the market, specifically relating around property. And this morning we're going to be talking to Igno Vivier. He's the head of auctions for Harcourt South Africa, and we're going to be talking to him about auctions and the auctions versus the normal sale and Harcourt's auctions versus traditional auctions. There is a difference. And live from Hermanus this morning, we've got Igno. Igno, welcome to the segment on property and specifically around auctions. You're coming live from Hermanus. Welcome, and tell us a little bit about what you're up to right now, and then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and we hope that we can inform the consumer out there with more information, which is to empower them. Good morning, Igno.
Good morning, Lee. It's lovely to be with you. Thank you very much for the opportunity as well. Yes, I'm live from Hermanus. It's an absolute beautiful town to live in. You know, unfortunately, our beaches are cordoned off at this point in time, and everybody's enjoying life in quarantine. But you know what? All things considered, I would much rather be quarantined in Hermanus than anywhere else.
I think that's debatable. We're in a good spot here in the northern suburbs. Igno, auctions versus normal sales. Is there a difference? Quickly, just briefly.
Yes, there is. You know what? We determine the market value prior to going to market when we are doing traditional sales. Whereas with the auction program, it's not a promise of a price, because ultimately we as agents are not going to put our hands to paper. It's going to be the market that needs to do that. It is a process that we follow to get to the maximum value that the market is willing to pay.
All right, and how do you determine a market value for an auction property?
Our method has been statistically proven to achieve the highest possible price in the shortest period of time. So, Lee, the best way to get the highest prices in the market is to create an environment that you can put all of these guys together so that the highest price the market is willing to pay can be achieved.
Okay, but if I just step one step back, do you when somebody goes to auction, he's obviously his first and foremost thing on his mind is what is the price of my property? The traditional agent down the road told me that it's worth X, and you coming along and you saying it's worth X plus Y or it's worth Y. How do you just distinguish between those two prices, just for clarity's sake?
All right, not a problem. You know what, Lee, truth be told, we can very easily go out and look at a lot of statistics, but the truth of the matter is ultimately the market value is determined by what the market is willing to pay at any given point in time. Now, the pricing of property can sometimes feel like a guessing game, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And how do you really price a property right? You know, what if you list a property slightly too high and then have to make course corrections down the line? Or what if no one is interested in that higher price? But now at the same time, the other side of this is, what if you list a property too short of what it's supposed to be? What happens if it's too low? And you leave money on the table. Now, so typically your agent will suggest that you lower your list price, hoping that this will encourage the market to some potential buyers to come in, and there's that typical spike within the first couple of weeks. And you know, but honestly, Lee, do you want buyers to simply look at your home based on price, or do you want them to look at your home because they really think that they can get a bargain, or because they truly found value of the property?
Absolutely. And I think that's really what makes it where your job really comes in is helping somebody understand that there is a traditional value. And another agent said to me once before, he said, I've been an agent for 20 years and I've been wrong on the price more than half of the time. That's because the traditional stats and the competitive analysis are often done incorrectly. And you saying that there's a way, and we're going to talk about that now when you get to the list price of an auction, you say there's a way to determine who the correct buyers are at the best possible price in the current market. Is that right?
That's correct. So Lee, at Harcourt's auctions, we are dedicated to ensuring you to achieve the highest possible price the market is willing to pay. Because the truth is, we get paid on commission. So the more we can get you, ultimately, that's to our own benefit as well. Now, our auction process means that potential buyers don't have to don't have a list price to work from. You know, they don't work with a price to aim at and then start negotiating down. You know, they actually know that your property is beautiful, and they want to see that your beautiful property is for sale and that it will be sold on a specific date when it goes to auction. So the auction platform that we use is to generate enough interest to get people through the door to ultimately create this excitement about your property for the property's own value's sake, and not necessarily price specifically, so that on a specific date, things are going to happen.
All right. So Igno, how do you, at Harcourt's auctions, determine the highest possible value for a property?
All right. So Lee, good question. You know, truth be told, the highest value of your property is obviously to our benefit because we get paid on commission, and the commission is based on a percentage value. Now, at Harcourt's auctions, we are absolutely dedicated to ensure that you achieve the maximum value that the market is willing to pay. Now, your question is, how do we determine the value of that property? How do we get that maximum price? Well, we have to create a competitive environment where people can actually see your beautiful property above every other thing that is in competition with it, and that the buyers are actually able to see the value of your property and accordingly be able to put their foot forward when it comes to processing and producing an offer. So our auction process means that potential buyers don't have a list price like you do with traditional real estate. All they know is that your beautiful property is for sale and will be sold on a specific date. So can you imagine what's going to happen when people see that? It causes interest, and that interest moves over to auctions either on the day or offers on the table beforehand.
And isn't that really the value that Harcourt is offering? They're creating a process that creates a competitive environment which will then get the highest possible price for a seller. Am I right? It's your someone going to Harcourt for an auction is really investing in your highly sophisticated processes that ultimately uncover or discover that buyer at the market price. Is that correct to say that?
Lee, we've got a beautiful saying at Harcourt's auctions, and that is that the auction process is not the promise of a price like traditional real estate, but it's the promise of a process that we are going to work with like we have for the last 130 years globally to get you the maximum value that the market is willing to pay at any point in time.
I like that, and I think that already separates you from traditional sales, is that you're promising them a process to bring them the highest price, whereas traditional real estate offers you the highest price, and most of the time they're wrong, aren't they? The expectation is out of sync. Well, you're not creating an expectation, you're creating a process which will uncover the right market price at the right expectation. Good.
And if I can add to that, Lee.
Yes.
Lee, if I may add to that just quickly, you know, if I look at the general numbers for days on the market, and ultimately that's where things get to go, you know, if a property is priced correctly, it will typically sell within the first 6 weeks. Whereas we at the auction program, we have a fantastic statistic report of average days on market is below 43 days. From the day that it's listed to the day that the property is sold. And that includes the 2 weeks beforehand that the property actually gets prepared. So from the moment you sign up with Harcourt's auctions, statistically speaking, 43 days should be what it takes for us to actually have a sold sign outside your property.
So what you're saying then is that there's another huge advantage, because me as a potential seller, I don't want to be on the market for 90 days and then renew with another agent. So what you're saying is go the Harcourt's auction route, and there's a process that will bring a price and a sale within 43 days or even sooner. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. And because we do not do absolute auctions, Lee, you as seller are under no obligation to sell should we not achieve the price that you are satisfied with. And ultimately, that gives, once again, not only control, but transparency to the process. And it happens quick enough that after 4 or 6 weeks, you're able to put the property back in the market with traditional information. So if you want to list it traditionally after going the auction route, you're more than welcome to do so.
That's amazing. So what you're saying is I've got a potential for a shorter sale time. I've got this full transparency, and me as a seller, I'm in control all the time. That's just, it sounds unbelievable. Yes. I like that.
Yes.
All right. So what kind of auctions does Harcourt's conduct? There's your traditional, and now Harcourt's is coming with their concept and their spin. What kind of auctions does Harcourt's conduct? Just give us a brief insight into that.
Well, firstly, Lee, thank you very much. We do not touch distressed properties at all. We do luxury and we do non-distressed residential property. So
Very
Harcourt's
important one.
auctions, we only do live auctions. So we do not have timed auctions like, online. There's small appliances and things that you can purchase online at a bidding platform. We don't do things like that. We only do live auctions. So what we would typically do is we would be either at a venue or at the property itself, off-site or on-site, and we would conduct the auction on the day. And on that day, you will have that transparency once again to see the variety of bidders. Now, being in lockdown, we do that digitally as well, either via Zoom or WhatsApp calls, Skype, these kinds of things that you are online with your agent and he will be representing you. And that also, once again, proves that there's no ghost bidders or people that's not registered bidders participating in that. So our auctioneer will facilitate and call the auction bidding. And just as you would expect with a car or antiques or with jewelry and these kinds of things, there's a live auction and an auctioneer. And we do not conduct auctions via via the internet remotely where you don't know what's going on. It's absolutely clear. So we do have online bidding, but it happens via Zoom and things like that. So it's a very transparent and a precise process that we follow.
Okay. Again, another key point is the transparency, and to conclude then, so the property will either be the sale of the property will either take place at the property or it will take place at an off-site location, and it's all transparent. And I think what you're saying over here is that you're putting buyers together in a room, and the seller's obviously going to be there, so he sees the kind of work that you've been putting in. He sees the competitor, the competition between the people. So there must be a lot of energy in a room like that, or at a moment like
Wonderful.
that. Is that true?
It's an amazing experience, Lee. And you know what? Truth be told, the buyers also have a fantastic experience because if you see there's 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 guys that's willing to pay the same price as you are for the property,
Yes.
you know that if you want to sell the property within a couple of months or in a year's time, there are buyers around. So it's a very transparent process for both the sellers as well as the buyers.
And I think for your seller, he can see the work you've put in, he can see what came out of it. And so it doesn't become a hearsay thing. He saw it firsthand.
Yes.
These were the highest bids. This must be the market value. Igno's got me close to list price because because that's what I'm seeing coming in. No, great concept. Love it so far. Let me ask you another question. Can somebody make an offer prior to the auction? It's been viewed. It's got specific view days. The auction is going to be on the Friday evening or the Wednesday night. I as a buyer would like to put an offer in prior. Can I do that?
Lee, our focus as property professionals is to do a job, and that is to get your property sold. So whether we do it on the day of auction, whether we do it the day after the auction, or whether we can achieve that prior to auction, that is our main objective. We want to get your property sold for the maximum value that the market is willing to pay. Now, all offers made through our campaign prior to the auction will be presented to the seller in writing. Now, however, it remains entirely the seller's decision whether they wish to counter or whether they want to accept or whether they want to continue down the auction path towards the day of the auction itself. Now, a large majority of our properties actually sell prior to auction. Now, as a seller, you have an opportunity to gauge the feedback from the market and to see what the market is actually saying about your property. And ultimately, this will allow you to make the best decision for you and your finances at any given point in time.
Is there a condition to me making an offer prior? Do I have to have my finances in order, my cash in the bank, deposits? Is a condition? I mean, you don't just want to take a verbal offer to a seller, do you?
No, absolutely. Now, we make sure from our side, now once again, being part of a reputable and a company with such a long history as Harcourt's, we really want to make sure that all offers are substantial and verified. So you can purchase prior or after the day of auction with finance options. Now, we do have in-house partners in the form of Uber. They will be able to supply you with a certificate stating that you are certified to have been pre-approved. If you're wanting to purchase subject to, in other words, selling your property or, a settlement coming in or whatever it might be, you're welcome to put in those offers, but that ultimately stays the seller's discretion to be able to decide whether they want to accept that or not. On the day of auction, we want 100% guaranteed, non-subject to offers on the day of auction. However, if a property if the offer came in prior or a registration happened prior to the day of the auction for a bidder, and they want to purchase via the bank finance, we will rely on Uber. And one of the major banks also has confirmed that they will do the valuation of the property, the traditional valuation that they needed to do prior to the day of auction. So all of that, once again, adds to the layer of transparency for both the buyer and the seller.
And again, the value proposition there is that you bring in the seller a bona fide offer. It's not something that's hanging out there as traditional agents normally do. There's certainty, and it's almost 100% certain that one of those offers will emerge ultimately. Absolutely. Next question, Igno. I'm the seller. It's the night of the auction. How can I be sure that I'm getting the best price for my home?
Now, Lee, it's a fantastic question. The only genuine measure of value of real estate is what someone is actually willing to pay. So truth be told, your neighbors might have gotten something, but truthfully, it is what people are willing to pay for your property on a specific time. Now, remember, an appraisal is merely an informed opinion. An appraisal is not necessarily an offer to buy, especially because I, as the agent, am not willing to put my hand on a piece of paper or a pen to paper to sign the contract to say I'm going to purchase it at that amount. It's my opinion as a real estate professional. But the real measure of value of real estate is at any given time is what it will bring under a competitive bidding environment for motivated buyers to put their pen to paper as well. Now, selling via the auction platform ensures you are receiving a public offer at fair market value and at a fair market price.
So in layman's terms, if I was just to sum it up, if you using your process, the market appraisal, the normal appraisal says it's about R1 million. You guys listed at R1 million, but on the night of the auction or the building up to the auction, the highest offer comes in a competitive environment, comes in at 950. Would you say that is the price that the market is willing to pay, and that would be the highest price that the seller should consider?
So by definition, that 950,000 would be the market value of your property at that specific point in time.
Yes. And you would obviously encourage the seller at that point. Look, this is the highest offer we've had. We've got a willing buyer, willing seller environment here, and we've created the competition. Guys, this is the best it's going to get. Is that really a true reflection then of the auction?
Lee, I think a very good way for us to use an analogy on this one is much like fishing. With the list price, I've got bait on a hook that I put into the water and I'm waiting for a bite. And that fish can come along at any point in time to take that bite. And when I've got this fish, I bring it in. I'm not guaranteed that that is actually the biggest fish in the sea or the best fish for me to catch. It's based on what happened at that specific point in time. Whereas, and that is much like a listing price. Whereas with the auction platform, it's much like putting a net out. In that same lake, I'm sitting on that same boat and I'm dragging a net. All of a sudden, I bring all the fish that's currently available into the boat. I can sift through them and ultimately choose the best fish for this property, if I can use that analogy. And I found that is such a great way of explaining what the auction process, the process is that we follow to get the maximum amount of buyers in a competitive environment to put their pen to paper.
Well said. And you get to choose the fish in the net, the biggest fish that possibly came in the net. Thank you. That's very well put, and I like that explanation. So just in conclusion then, Igno, we moving away, I'd like to highlight this point, because this is what Harcourt's highlights, is that you don't do distressed properties. We do, or you do, the kind of properties that you're looking for the best price, but it's not a distressed property. Do you want to just close on that and just tell the seller out there listening, if you use us as Harcourt's auctions, we're not there to represent a distressed sale. We're there to find you the highest price that the market is willing to offer in the shortest possible time through our process.
And
we're not doing distressed sales.
Lee, auction unfortunately does have a negative connotation to that. The word auction in South Africa, unfortunately, does sound like distressed. The truth is that we as a company, we don't do distressed properties at all. We don't touch bank repossessed properties. We stay away from them because, once again, we need to protect you as sellers' interest and the reputation of your property as well. Now, it is a misconception that auctions are only used to sell distressed properties. It is a misconception that auctions are only used to sell distressed properties. At a bargain price, it's a giveaway, it's a steal. The truth is that auctions is the preferred method of sale globally for, properties, for cars, luxury goods like art and jewelry. So auctions for real estate in South Africa is relatively new, but it's not new globally. Truth is that Harcourts was established in 1888, and in 1889, we had our first non-distressed residential sale via the auction platform. Now, this just shows you that the auctions is the way to go. They can reveal the true market value of a property or of a piece of jewelry or of a piece of art or a fancy car that's one of a kind. And ultimately, that is the best open public forum where a competitive environment is created, where you can have genuine bidding and genuine buyers competing over your property for the sake of the property, and not based on horse trading between this one and this offer and that offer, but genuine value is created on the day of auction.
That's wonderful, and I can really see the value of going through the Harcourts process. I've heard that this is normal for Australia, where Harcourts is very, very active, and New Zealand. I've heard there's been great success in the USA, and I believe that you guys are just bringing that success to South Africa. You're going to be market influencers, and you're doing something different. And well done to Harcourts, well done to the team. And I look forward to seeing the Harcourts boards out there for auctions. Sellers can be sure that there's a process, that there's transparency, that is not linked to distressed sales. And I really wish you guys all the best into the future. I think you're doing a great job. I think the South Africa needs a concept like this. And I think most important is that you're putting people first. You're being responsible with your marketing. The transparency is key. There's just so much funny stuff out there. And I just want to say well done to you guys, and all the best with this venture in South Africa. I know you're heading it up. I know you've got a big job on your shoulders. And from what I hear, the teams out there, you're doing a great job in equipping, empowering, and making the guys relevant out there. Well done, and thank you for this interview. And good luck to Harcourts with your auctions out there, and to everybody that's involved with the Harcourts process. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. I really appreciate it.